All right. Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all of you. We have quite the global audience. So thank you so much for joining us today. So you are in the right place if you are here to learn about clean energy procurement options in Vietnam. So with that, Karina, can you go to the next slide? Wonderful. So today we have two real objectives. We would like you to leave this webinar with a greater understanding of the current clean energy procurement options in Vietnam, as well as also greater confidence in being able to navigate those options and work with your procurement teams and supply chain partners on actually executing some transactions within Vietnam. As you can see here, so we have a packed agenda, 2 hours long, because we got a lot to get through. But there's really four main segments to this webinar today. And one is we'll first go through a nice clean energy market and policy overview for Vietnam, and then we'll start diving into what are the current clean energy procurement options. And with that, the Allotrope team will really share out what are some commonalities and differences that many of you may be familiar with in the US and European markets. Then we'll take a deeper step into procurement and start guiding through, okay, thinking about what kind of resources and procurement options may be best for you or your supply chain. And then finally, we will be bringing in the buyer perspective to really speak on what they're thinking about all these new options and opportunity within Vietnam, and we'll have a panel discussion. So this is 2 hours long. Please take a break when you need to, stand up, take a sip of water. Each of the little gray areas, there's going to be kind of some interactive polling as well as audience Q&A. So there will be opportunities for you to take that break if needed. All right, next, Karina. So some housekeeping rules. Be present and feel emboldened to ask questions, challenge assumptions. We're among peers here. We do employ modified Chatham House rules. You can say what was said, but not who said what. With that being said, we are also recording this webinar. It will be made available to members, but it will not be made available publicly. So we'll be sending it to participants, and for CEBA, we'll be putting it up on our member portal. And finally, please follow our antitrust rules. If you go to the next slide, Karina. And please do not discuss any non-public, competitively sensitive information here in this webinar. Finally, if we take a look at the next slide, I would be remiss to not mention our upcoming flagship annual member event. That'll be in Minneapolis this year. I'll put a link in the chat for you all to take a look if you've never joined us on one of these. Last year we had 500 people, and I think we're going to be actually breaking that record this year. Okay, next. Yes, they will be made available to the ACEC members and Fashion Charter. So last item I want to bring forth is introduction to our speakers. So my name is Kimora King. I'm a manager for global programs at the Clean Energy Buyers Association, work on our market and policy portfolio. We will have Duc Nguyen from the head of from the Asia Clean Energy Coalition really provide the lay of the land of the clean energy market in Vietnam. And then Tung Ho from Allotrope Partners will be leading us through on the clean energy procurement options in Vietnam. And finally, we'll be graced by Director of Climate and Energy from Adidas, Dipjay Sanchania. Before I hand it over to Duc, I do want to give thanks to the partnerships here that have come together to put this series on. There was an in-person event, and now we're doing a webinar. And so thank you, Asia Clean Energy Coalition. Thank you, the Fashion Charter. And I want to turn it over to provide, for each of them to provide quick opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Kimora, and thank you all for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. Really excited that we could all gather here together. I'm Eric Gibbs. I lead global strategy at the Clean Energy Buyers Association. If you're not familiar with CEBA, we are a trade association with over 400 members that combined have a market capitalization of over $20 trillion. So we have some of the largest clean energy buyers, as well as service providers and energy providers. And we recently accomplished quite a milestone. Over 100 gigawatts of clean energy has been procured in the United States over the course of the last decade by corporate buyers, and CEBA members represent 90% of that total. So I think it just goes to show how corporate buyers are literally transforming the clean energy market in the United States. And of course, that's our goal because our mission is to create carbon emissions-free global energy systems. It's a very ambitious mission, and the way that we pursue that is through both policy. So we try to provide advisory and advocacy around clean energy policy, and we also try to educate and train companies, both our members as well as their supply chain partners in countries like Vietnam, on clean energy procurement. So I know that a lot of you were deeply involved in various aspects of clean energy policy reform in Vietnam. It was a long time coming, and now with the final decrees on rooftop solar as well as DPPA, hopefully we have a huge opportunity here for corporate clean energy procurement. So thanks to my colleagues at CEBA. Thank you to our partners at the Asia Clean Energy Coalition, as well as other partners, including Allotrope. Really appreciate the time and energy here and really looking forward to the conversation. Thanks very much.
Eric. Suji?
Good morning, good evening, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm gonna be very quick in terms of introducing ASEC and some of our key visions that we're looking forward to advance in Vietnam from ASEC side. We are ASEC, Asia Clean Energy Coalition, founded by 3 different organizations, including the Climate Group, WRI, and GWEC, with the aim of really facilitating policy environment for corporate procurement of renewable energy in Asia. So we're really trying to help out our members in terms of meeting their decarbonization goals in different markets across Asia. And we are trying to serve as a regional platform covering some regional topics like cross-border clean energy trading issues and so on. And we have a wonderful team on the ground. We have Dick, Head of Policy Vietnam, and Mia, Associate Director in Engagement, together with the senior leadership team members, including myself and 1 representative from each of the founding organizations, and covering 6 different markets, as you can see on this slide. We have very esteemed members, as you can see on the slide, like the big names that can be easily picked up and recognized and very committed for the decarbonization by targeted goal. And also a lot of associate members working together, building community together. And in Vietnam specifically, we are really putting a lot of effort in advocating different areas like DPPA with greater price transparency and predictability. And also as a result of our advocacy efforts, there are some progresses actually being made with the passage of series of different regulations. Looking ahead, in 2025, our next steps will focus on advancing provincial level advocacy, particularly within industrial zones, to expedite the implementation of various renewable energy policies. And we're also trying to strengthen supply chain engagement through diverse platforms and initiatives that we are leading as ASEC, also together with our collaborative partners. And as you can see on this slide, we're making a lot of on-the-ground efforts on day-to-day basis. Just last Wednesday, just a week ago, I met the Minister of MIT having a really nice wine together during gala dinner hosted by the Prime Minister, where I had a brief but very productive catch-up with him, proposing refinements on the current model of the PPA mechanism to make it more market reflective, encouraging private sector negotiations and agreements, while also facilitating more effective implementation of DPPA. And we are having a series of community building sessions for a better understanding of our members' needs, and also to draw really clear next course of action items with our collaborative partners. So very looking forward to having more conversations over the procurement strategies and also renewable energy expansion strategies in Vietnam. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you,
I'm going to
Suji.
pass my mic over to Fashion Chatter, Holly.
Very happy to be here today on behalf of Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action. It's an initiative convened by UN Climate Change. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners at ACEC, CEBA, and Fulbright University, and everyone really joining us to explore clean energy opportunities in Vietnam. For those of you who don't know, UNFCCC is the global framework guiding the world's response to climate change. We support governments, and that's our primary role. But within the global climate action umbrella, we also work with non-government stakeholders to drive collective climate action. And one such initiative is the Fashion Charter, which brings together brands, retailers, suppliers, and organizations who are committed to aligning the fashion industry with climate action pathway. These organizations are working collaboratively to drive decarbonization across the value chain, with a lot of focus clearly on renewable energy solutions, energy efficiency, and there's a number of commitments in the charter. One notable there is to phase out coal as quickly as possible. So energy use, as you all know, is one of the largest contributors to the industry's emissions, and that's why clean energy procurement is not only climate imperative, but really a business priority for all these members. And of course, I do understand it's not just apparel and textile stakeholders in this call. Vietnam is a key sourcing country for many fashion brands and suppliers of the Fashion Charter, and as its clean policy, energy policies evolve, of course, there's a growing opportunity to decarbonize supply chains through strategic procurement, whether through rooftop solar, power purchase agreements, or broader policy engagement. And these are some of the streams of work that we apply here with our members as well. This webinar is therefore a very timely and important space for us to learn and connect, but also look how can we collaborate on solutions. For the Fashion Charter community and beyond, your ability to scale clean energy markets like Vietnam is central to meeting the climate goals, and certainly doing so in a way that supports resilient and forward-looking supply chains. So I look forward to today's insights and discussions, and to working together with all of you on energy solutions that serve our climate, your industry, but also the communities in which we operate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindita. All right, now with that, I'm going to hand it over to Duke from the Asia Clean Energy Coalition to talk about Vietnam's clean energy market and policy dynamics.
Thanks, Kamora. And hello, everyone. Well, I just turned on my camera to say hello, but it seems like my internet is a bit unstable. So in order to keep it go smoothly, I prefer to please allow me to turn off my video. Thanks for the opportunities to allow me to present on the market overview, and as well as the policy update. And I will have two sections. The first one, next slide, please. I would like to quickly go through the updates on the government stakeholder mappings. Next slide, please. And as you may know, as of early 2025, Vietnam has undergone a major restructuring for the whole, for the whole countries, including the governments. And the number of ministry has been reduced from 22 to only 17. And the number of ministerial level agencies has decreased from 8 to 5. And there are several ministries have been enlarged as well as been merged with each other. It means that the coordination pathway may change in the future. And this restructuring consolidate the responsibility across key sector. And because for today we are talking about the clean energy space, the electricity and the clean energy space in general, in particular. So our main ministry is still MOIT, as they're governing the PDP, renewable energy policies, and also other energy related matters. MOIT remain intact, but they may see some internal adjustment that will be presented in the next slide. Next slide, please. And MOIT remained the lead ministry overseeing the power planning and energy policies. And our main focal point, one of the main authority or agencies under MOIT will be the Electricity Authority that has been highlighted. They are the key agencies managing the PDPA, DPPA, rooftop solar mechanisms, and as well as the selection of investor and the project implementation for, as well as the grid regulatory framework. And there are also others departments or agencies that related to a bit of the energies. It could be the planning and finance department that oversees the energy investment pipeline, and also another department is the technology, green transformation and innovation department that support the decarbonizations and innovation across the country, but also link with the clean energy and also the energy transition of the whole country. And next slide, please. For this section, I will quickly go through the market overview and also the policy updates of the whole of the country. But first will be on the energy system. Next slide. So as you can see, the total capacity of Vietnam energy system is more than 87 gigawatt of installed capacity. It still remains one of the largest installed capacity in the region, or let's say it's like in the Southeast Asia. And if we, look at the system by sources, well, the coal plant still contribute to more than 30%. Exactly, the exact number is 32%. However, we can see a huge contribution of the hydropower plant that contribute for nearly 30%, and also the renewable energy combining the solar and wind that contribute to 26% of the total installed capacity. And if we look at the system in by the power ownership, that we can see that the independent power producer, the IPP, dominate others owners by 41%, and EVN and related subsidiaries only contribute to 38%. But if we look for the other state-owned enterprise like PVN and Vinacomin, the total state-owned companies for the power system is still 47%. And the table on the right show the generation and production of the 2024. For the year of the 2024, I will not go line by line, but let's say it's like when we look at the generation of hydropower as well as the renewable energy, wind and solar, that contribute to approximately more than 42% of the total electricity generated in 2024. Though the system is still, largely coal-dependent, however, with the large contribution of the hydropower plant as well as the renewable energy generation, it still, significantly reduced the grid emission factor, that it has decreased 28% in compared to 2018, where there is no renewable energy production in the country. Next slide, please. The next slide presents about the historical developments of renewable energy, particularly for wind and solar in Vietnam. As you can see on the left, is for the solar utility as well as the rooftop solar development. It mainly being developed during, the period of 2019 and 2020, with the effective of the feed-in tariff mechanisms with a very good and attractive tariff for the developers as well as the off-taker. And for on the right, donuts represent the installed capacity of the wind that significantly increased by the end of 2021. And when we look at the allocation of those renewable energy projects, they are mainly in the central and southern part of Vietnam due to the favorable weather conditions for renewable energy development. Says the solar irradiation is much higher as well as the wind speed is much faster in the central and southern part of Vietnam. And after 2020, EVN or MOIT do not officially record the installation of rooftop solar for self-consumption purpose. However, when I discussed with the renewable energy developer as well as the import agencies, we expect that there would be an addition of 2 gigawatts of rooftop solar installer for self-consumption purpose during the period of 2021 up until now, up until end of 2024. Next slide, please. The new electricity law has been approved, in the very last date of 2024. It created significant milestone that set forth the fundamental background for, electricity energy development in general and as well as for renewable energy development in particular. So in the countries, we have PTP8, which is the Power Development Plan number 8. That is not only for the planning management, but also it determines the approval, adjustment, and implementation of energy projects, and the related condition to for the infrastructure, the total investment, as well as others components. And in terms of the new electricity law also provide the regulation on renewable energy developments, showing the guidelines and indicate the government of Vietnam supporting directive on renewable energy developments. And in the electricity law, it's also mentioned that the gas power would be the key energy supply source in the future. Well, though the gas power still, have some emission, however, it reduced the dependence on the thermal and coal. So with a, less emission factor, so it will, provide the contribute as the base load for the future power system in Vietnam. The electricity law also provides some, guidance on the electricity trading that allow the DPPA, direct power purchase among private sector. As before DPPA release in 2024 or revised early March 2025, EVN is still the sole electricity trader. And also, the electricity law provide the background for related service and dispatching mechanism and regulatory for the future implementation of the projects. Next slide, please. Those are the reasons, the updates on on the decrees and also the policies that promote the development of renewable energy projects. I will not go into details of this as I believe our colleague from Allotrop will also have some presentation on the renewable energy procurement option here in Vietnam. But let's say it's like up until now, as we are talking, the government of Vietnam has introduced several mechanisms, including the DPPA mechanisms that allow the direct electricity trading between renewable energy developers and large consumers. There are some conditions on that. They have the private grid models, they have the synthetic models, and also we have the decrease on the self-produced and self-consumed rooftop solar recently been revised, enabling the clearer rooftop solar implementation and the surplus excess power selling back to the grid. We also have some guides implementation on the electricity laws with provision of planning, permitting, and licensing. It also provides some frame tariff decisions that set the selling price for renewable energy procurements, or let's say it's like for developers to sell electricity to the grid. That would be essential for the auction designs as well as the reference for the related electricity trading mechanisms like rooftop solar and DPPA. And we also have Decree 115, provide the bidding procedures and for land use-based investment project and including for the renewable energy projects. Next slide, please. I will just go very quickly on this one just to provide a recap or background on the previous PDP 8 that approved back in 2023, that we have a strong renewable energy expansion plan, but the grid is still focused on hydropower and also the thermal power. But in the past, with the decision 500, it also introduced some new technologies like the battery energy storage system, though the number is pretty limited, only 300 megawatt. And the pump hydro storage system also be introduced, and also other flexible resources that could help to improve the stability of the grid. However, the previous PDP-8 is pretty limited for solar development, with only 4 gigawatt for solar utility scale and only 2.6 gigawatt for self-consumption rooftop solar. Next slide, please. This is just a very quick, description or illustration of the percentage of installed capacity of each technology. That's just for your information. Next slide. So this is the new, let's say it's like the revision of the PDP-8. It just quickly recap it on that. It significantly increased the renewable energy target of all type. Let's say it's like it has a strong renewable energy ambitions, like solar power significantly increased, and onshore and nearshore wind is scaled up to 38 gigawatt under PDP revisions. The offshore wind remain 7 gigawatt by 2025, and the government is still expect some movement and installation of 6 gigawatt by 2030. But I assume that it could be more on the preparation, the document preparation, and also other logistic arrangement. And apart from the installed capacity of the renewable energy has been significantly increased, there are also a notable increase in terms of the battery energy storage system, that in the past, as I has mentioned, only 300 megawatt of battery energy storage system that link with some specific projects, and mainly for the ancillary service activities. However, it significantly increased from 10 gigawatt, let's say it's like 10,000 megawatt to 16,000 megawatt by 2030. In different scenarios, base scenarios, and also high scenarios. And they also try to explore, the potential of the remaining potential of hydropower plant that increased the capacity from 29.3 gigawatt to nearly 35 gigawatt in total. Next slide, please. So this slide just represented the installed capacity by percentage, and I just keep it here for your documentation. Next slide. So it is just the showing the additional renewable energy capacity and allocation. Allocation here is mean because they in the PDP 8 and PDP 8 revision, they divided into 6 sub-regions. And as we can see, by 2030 and 2035, the rooftop solar will still be focused in the northern part and the southern part of Vietnam. The reason why it is put in the northern part of Vietnam, I assume, because there are still a lot of rooms and there are a lot of factories in that zone that have yet be covered with the rooftop solar system. And so that's the reason why it mainly focused by the rooftop solar mainly focused in the north by 2030, and to adapt with the significant increase that projected for the electricity demand. For the southern part of Vietnam is still, with the high load consumption, with a lot of industrial zone, as well as the factories in the south, as well as the weather condition, irradiation that very suitable fit with the rooftop solar installation. And the same trend may apply for the 2030 and until 2035. 2035. And the onshore wind will be developed across the nation by 2030, but due to the limits of capacity and preferable development conditions, they will only focus on the highland and the south after 2030. Oh, I just forgot to mention about solar utility scale, but let's say it's like pretty the same focus with the rooftop solar by 2030, but also promoted other areas, the same trend that apply for the country. The battery energy storage will be promoted not only for the grid support, as previously mentioned, 300 in the existing PDP 8, but they also be applied for others BT application behind the meters, like solar, rooftop solar plus BESS, or utility scale plus BESS for the generation shifting, and as well as the load shifting. And I think that is the end of my technical presentation. The next 2 slides will be more information and details on how to get involved and how to engage with ACEC. I'll pause it here and give the floor back to the organizer.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Duke. So all please feel free to, if you have any questions, start putting them into the chat. We are going to pause for a moment just to do a little bit of a poll and get some insight and intel from you all. So Karina, please feel free to submit that. So we're curious on what barriers are present in the market that you think may impact your procurement journey this year. And in the second question, what support do you need from groups like CEBA, the Fashion Charter, and ACEC? What can we do? And again, feel free to add any questions into the chat. We're happy to keep that as a live ongoing discussion as we continue throughout the webinar. We'll give it another minute. Looks like about half have have finished filling out the poll. Duke, in the meantime, I noticed that so the revised PDP8 just came out. So your takeaway, it seems like it's an improvement that they're getting more ambitious. Wondering if you can speak a little bit more on your impressions on it.
Yes, Tamara, I totally agree. So, some experts in the market also say that it's too ambitious. That let's say it's like in the past, for the original PDP planning, we may need 136 something like billions US dollar for the 10 years period from 2021 until 2030. However, only very limited investment made during the 2021 until 2025. And now when we revise the PDP8, we still, aiming to invest more than 130 billion US dollar during the period from now until end of 2030. So let's say it's like only 5 years left, and we still need to spend the same amount of money. So we double the speed of moving things forward. And when I mainly discuss with the developers, well, I have to share that there are some reluctance due to some issue and problem in the past during the FIT period. However, they are also feeling fear of missing a opportunity, FOMO, of what if I am not in the games and not have no skin in the game, and they also have some others risk mitigation strategy, and also some DD activities already implemented at the moment, engaging with the advisory team, and also start their BD activities to reach out to the buyers and then they feel more confident and more engaged with the DPP mechanisms rather than develop a new project and sell to event grid, because somehow B2B engagement is still something that provide more certainty and risk-free from their perspective.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, Karina, let's end this poll and share the results out just for everyone to see. So it seems like for the barriers, a lot of market policy and uncertainty. That's the main one coming through. And in terms of support, I mean, pretty even across the board. So for sure, more procurement education and training, and support on supply side engagement. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you all for that input. I know there's some questions in the chat, and I think these are questions we will continue to get to. There'll be more Q&A breaks to come. So, but in the interest of time, I want to hand it over to the Allotrope team to start getting it a little bit more into the procurement options. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your patience, and apologies for the hiccup. So diving in right away, my name is Tung. I'm from Allotrope Partners based here in Vietnam. Our firm is headquartered in the US, and we support companies and their supply chains in clean energy procurement, analysis, and also onto the transaction itself. For the work in Vietnam, we are very fortunate to be a partner of CEBA in implementing the global, clean energy procurement academy that supports key members of CEBA and their suppliers in understanding the procurement market in the country. We have been here since 2018, providing support through various programs across different areas, being clean energy procurement or corporate decarbonization. So right away, I'd like to firstly go into the topic being the comparison between different markets, EU, US, and Vietnam, and why are we a bit maybe better positioned to give a briefing on this part. The reason is because we, for the past few years, we did support the US Department of State in helping their embassies and consulates across different countries, all over 6 continents, to decarbonize via clean energy procurement. And the key point here is to find solutions that will result in cost saving for the Department of State. Hence, we did spend some time, working with partners in different markets and achieve some success across countries like the Philippines, Spain, Poland, Germany, and the Netherlands, and a few other countries as well. And via this exercise, we did, have some knowledge of these different markets and compare that to Vietnam. In the next slide. So we made a very simple table of coloring. Green being, the most positive market, and we have solutions readily implementable in there. So you can see that in the US or EU, different options being on-site turnkey purchase like installation of rooftop solar, or power purchase agreement or PPA in short, and even off-site procurement like virtual PPAs or even direct PPA or green tariff in some cases are mostly available. Now, when you look at Vietnam, you might see a bit of yellow, a bit of red right there. Might not look as positive, but trust me, a few years back, this would look a lot worse. I think due to the effort by CEBA, by ACEC, and also by previous programs under USAID, a lot of progress has been made in this space, so that today, even for off-site procurement, like in Vietnam as the direct power purchase mechanism, or DPPA, is now available. It is there. I think there are still some barriers, but it is available right now for most, for some. So that's why I think in the current geopolitical climate, as our friend from the Fashion Charter has said, Vietnam was and has been the key supply chain country in the region. And even with all that's going on, and not to toot our own horn here, but we hope to remain a key supply chain regions in the market, or at least in ASEAN, by having all of these options available to you and your suppliers in your decarbonization journey. So the differences that you see in the table, I think there's some context to that, and I believe that Anh Duc has, very summarized the kind of policies in Vietnam and the market extremely well. Could not hope to do better. But in terms of other markets like the US or EU, this region benefits from a more liberalized market where there are multiple stakeholders or players in terms of the retailing, in terms of distributions and other services, generation and things like that. So it results in off-takers or corporates like yourself having a lot of solutions available to you via lots of policies, updates, and market progress. In Vietnam, I think our situation is a bit more unique in terms of the level of centralization. We have a single and state-owned monopoly utility in terms of the power sector. So it does take some more effort, and I think there was a lot of effort, coming from different players, And hence, even with the kind of complex policy and regulatory framework that we have, the recent release of the decrees that Anh-Duc mentioned in his slide has helped a lot in opening up the market. And hopefully in the years to come, that will open up solutions for you as well. So in terms of the procurement options, other countries, I think, like the table you saw, lots of solutions, whether in terms of like rooftop solar, you also have solar plus storage on site, that's possible. Net metering for those rooftop solar system is an option as well. Right now, net metering for rooftop solar in Vietnam is quite limited, and it does take some effort to navigate through all the steps and applications. And then for EU and the US, I think virtual PPAs are quite common and quite, it has been implemented over many years. So the market itself has a lot of, support in terms of technical or financial tools that you can have. Also, at the very end, I think we need to have the value in terms of the claim, the environmental attribute claim that you can have with your climate targets. So that's very important in market like the US or EU. The tracking of these environmental attribute certificates has more granularity. It comes to like an hour by hour basis, and then you have a system for that. In Vietnam, I think the market is quite nascent. So I think for rooftop solar, we have a great new decree that outline quite the different steps you can have in terms of the self-generation and self-consumed system. And then hopefully we see more attempt to look at the implementation of the DPPA or virtual PPAs mechanism in Vietnam. I think it's quite new and early, so we have to observe the market a bit more. And in terms of the regs, I think I'll talk about that a bit deeper in the next presentation. But in Vietnam, there's some concerns around I think the value or the additional level or the impact of the IREX that is available in the country, so that will get addressed in the later slide. Well, in short, I think I'll leave more time for question and answer. But with the current market, I'll say that for off-takers, for multinationals, MNCs, brands, and your supply chain in Vietnam, there are a few options in terms of the clean energy procurement solution in country. I think for that, in the next slide, I go deeper into rooftop solar. How is that available under the different decrees? How is the market looking? And then also going into the DPPA, more specifically, the kind of synthetic or financial component of the DPPA, for our listener here, and also address some concerns, issues around IREX. So I think that kind of summarize, the differences between Vietnam and other markets. I think overall, we are hopeful. I align with Anh-Duc on a few things in terms of the newly approved revised PDP 8, and the need for the government to really support the power sector going forward, and the involvement of the private sector, not just project developers, but also off-takers like yourself, in pushing for higher level of renewable penetration into the grids. But I pause there, and if there's any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Duc. Very good. Sorry, goodness. Thank you, Tung. Very, very clear on that. I noticed Duc did reply to one of the questions in the chat, so thank you, Duc. I think there's another one, and I'd open this either to Duc or Tung to answer. But how does the recent tariff affect the source of GE equipment to Vietnam?
Assuming GE here means green energy. Sure if that's what's meant.
Lau, could you specify if that means green energy?
Well, I think GE equipment would be the brands of the wind turbines or others equipment, that is the US brand
Yeah.
of the electronic equipment.
Yeah, he said, sorry, Lau said yes to that it's green energy.
All right. Maybe I'll share some 2 cents first. And Dirk, feel free to chime in later. I think with everything that's going on with the tariff, I think there's some uncertainty over the next period. But I'll say that for Vietnam, we mostly, a lot of the projects on the ground, we use, let's say PV panels we use we import those from China. And I think so far the PV panels price for this year and the last one has been quite low. And at least from what I heard on the ground, tariff between Vietnam and China would not have impact. But moving forward to next year, specifically to PV panels, there might be an increase in terms of the pricing because I'll say that most of the tier 1 PV panels manufacturer have now managed to acquire the majority of the market. So with the tier 2s, suppliers or manufacturer being gone, they can now set the pricing. So there's some expectation in terms of increase in price. That's the less positive news. The more positive news is that we have seen, let's say on the storage side, when you think about solar plus storage, I think the cost of battery energy storage system has seen major decline in the past 1 or 2 years. And I think at least the recent number that we've seen, they are in certain cases very much commercial and viable for factories or projects to consider. But I'll stop there.
Well, I agree with Tung that there could be a slight. Well, it depends on how strong the tariff is. That to determine the level impacts that it could impact the if it is GE's the green energy equipment for the market. However, let's say it's like we witness a significant and dramatical decrease of renewable energy equipment in the last 2 years. Say, in order to invest 1 megawatt of solar back in 2020, it may cost you like $600,000 US. But back in the end of 2024, the capex for the equipment plus EPC turnkey would be let's say it's like around $300,000 US per megawatt peak. And so it dropped, let's say it's like 40 to 50% of the price for the equipment. And in terms of the BESS, it is also, thanks to the significant boomings of EV, 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers that, have also dropped the price of the battery energy storage system significantly. I think it will be, let's say, like around 120 to 150 thousand US dollar per megawatt hour of tier 1 battery energy storage system back by the end of 2024, as I discussed with the market here in Vietnam. So it significantly decreased like 40 to 50%, both for the solar and also for the best option to make it really, commercial viable here in Vietnam. I'll pass here.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Please feel free to come off mute and ask if you'd like.
I've got one question. I was just curious about minimum load thresholds for direct PPAs in Vietnam. Are there currently minimum load thresholds? And if yes, can you advise what they are?
Just confirming the question here. Are we talking about the minimum load requirement to join the DPPA program in Vietnam?
Correct.
Yep. So I'll come to that in the next slide, but very quickly here, there is a minimum requirement to join. You have to be qualified as a large consumer or energy consumer here in Vietnam. On a monthly basis, that'll be a minimum of 200,000 kilowatt hours of load per month. And how do you calculate that average? I'll talk in details in later slide, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Next interactive poll to get some more intel from you all. Okay, so pretty mixed on the barriers. That regulatory uncertainty is quite high and project costs are the highest in barriers. Great to hear, somewhat confident is good. I like that. Like that we're somewhat confident in your ability to meet your goals in Vietnam. That's a good answer. For the last one, so it seems like a lot of people here today are learning about their procurement options, which is great. This is why we're holding this webinar. So wonderful. Okay.
Thanks so much. So jumping off from the poll or survey, I think a little bit of self shameless promotion, but I see a lot of answer and concerns around the need for educations, trainings around different procurement options and also supplier engagement. I think very quickly you can come to CEBA for that with their Global Academy program. That is the objective of the academy, to really equip brand suppliers and the supply chain with the different clean energy procurement knowledge that is necessary for the next step, which is always to, I think, sorry, always to the transaction itself. And then if you're concerned around the policies and the uncertainty, please go to the ACEC team. I think Angduk, Mia, and Suzy are great, and they can help you with different kind of policy engagement. I'll pause here. So going off, I think from this slide, we'll go to the different procurement options. Let's focus a bit more on the on-site for now. And when we talk about on-site in Vietnam, that would mean rooftop solar in the country. And for rooftop solar, we have at the moment some different approach, whether that is self-invest or capex or a turnkey purchase. Those are the different names that you use. And then the other one is the OPEX approach, or PPAs or leasing. Those two are the key kind of different ways that you can go about installing rooftop solar. And for rooftop solar, I think it's quite a mature market with a significant cost saving that you can see in different regions across Vietnam. And it has been widely available for years with, I think, EPCs, service providers having, great technicality for this area. So there's minimal risk that is around the kind of installation and different aspect of it. So who, when we talk about, let's say first on the CapEx or turnkey or self-invest model in Vietnam, we are talking about the Decree 58 mostly. In there, you can find different kind of steps and guidance on how to carry out or execute a self-generation and self-consumed rooftop solar system. The relevant users or relevant factories or off-taker for this are the factories with sizable rooftop and also have a planned long-term use of their facilities with sufficient, I think this is the most crucial part, sufficient access to capital or financing, because for this option, you'll be doing your self-investment, you'll be hiring an EPC to do the installation, permitting, and perhaps the maintenance and operation for you. So these are the kind of factors to consider for yourself. I think for Decree 58, the one recently approved and released, there's a lot of more clarity on the application that you have with the relevant authorities in Vietnam, and also the different kind of technical requirement across different systems, and then also some guidance on net metering or the use of battery storage together with your system. The details will be there, but I have listed some key bullet points here. The one shortcoming of, I think, Decree 58 is the ambiguity around OPEX or PPA model for rooftop solar system. It's not explicitly mentioned that PPA is allowed, but it's also not mentioned at all. So it's a bit ambiguous on whether factories or suppliers or companies can actually install rooftop solar via PPAs or OPEX model. There are some way around it, which I'll come into a bit after. So for rooftop solar, self-invest model, what are the kind of advantages, pros and cons for this? I think the key advantage now is the clarity in policies and regulation. I think between 2021 and 2024, a lot of suppliers and companies that we have engaged cite regulation uncertainty and as one of the reasons why they are not proceeding with rooftop solar. But now I think that has been resolved. I think that is the key advantage, together with some that I've cited here in terms of the lower cost, as Angduk has mentioned. Yeah, we are seeing the lowest kind of PV costs in recent years. And also, I think the maturity of the market is a key aspect and consideration. So what are the cons? I think rooftop solar, especially larger system, still require significant upfront investment if we are going with the CapEx or self-invest model under Decree 58. And then, at the end, rooftop solar, specifically for larger facility, will not resolve all of your renewable energy needs. If you have, let's say, 100% renewable targets, that most of the time rooftop solar cannot meet that requirement. So, so those were the kind of consideration for self-invest or CapEx model. It is, and it has been more popular in Vietnam to approach rooftop solar on the OPEX or PPA, or in some cases we see equipment leasing model where the factory itself don't have to invest into a system, but they will have another investor or project developer to come in and invest the system on your behalf and then sell the solar power to you, usually at a discounted price compared to the retail tariff that you have. I think for this, these are quite applicable for most factories in the country, as you don't need to commit to a capital investment upfront. And then, in terms of the facilities and factories that you're renting, there's less of concern with the end cycle of your system. So these are the kind of consideration that you take if you want to go for PPA or leasing model. Like I said, advantages on this is there's no upfront investment, and you will also see an immediate saving on a monthly basis, because the price that is often quoted by these investor or project developer for you will be less than your retail tariff. The exact number will varies between regions. In the region with higher irradiance level, like in the south of Vietnam or central Vietnam, you enjoy a higher saving, I think. But I have to say that this kind of saving will be on a site-specific basis, because there are also other factors in place, like your level of energy offtakes and other things like that. What is the kind of shortcomings or disadvantages for this model right now? I think, as I mentioned, there's ambiguity under Decree 58, and then also in most cases, the factory has to sign a very long-term contract, varying between 10 to 20 years. I'm including 10 years today because I think previously it was very rare to see like 10 years contract. But at least in recent, in the past year or so, we have seen 10 years contract for rooftop solar PPAs in the market. So that's pretty good news for people. So that is, the PPAs and leasing kind of pros and cons under Decree 58. Now, there's a new option in place that is being advertised by project developers in the market to be an alternative under Decree 57, which is supposed to focus on the DPPA. For this, they mostly talk about the physical or private wire component of the DPPA, where there's an actual connection, physical connection in terms of the wiring between the rooftop solar system or any kind of renewable system to the factory or the site itself. This option is only available once again to large energy consumer, as I have answered in the last question, with a monthly demand of minimum 200,000 kilowatt hours. For these cases, I think the pricing, at least in Decree 57, it has to be negotiated between the buyers and the sellers, or the seller in this case being project developers. But there's an interesting clause in there that mentioned there's a ceiling of the electricity generation price framework that Anh Duc has cited in his last slide. But for now, at least from my understanding of the recent the pricing framework, I have only seen mounted and floating solar pricing, and we have not seen pricing for rooftop solar yet. So at the moment, at least our advice to factories and suppliers in these cases is that I think implementation is still scarce, or at least I have not known of any actual project in this kind of arrangement, aside from very specific kind of project inside an industrial park, which in itself is a bit unique in its setup. But I think it is something to be explored and to be understood a little bit better. If there is any changes, or updates upcoming in terms of the policies, I think ACEC team would be best positioned to update you guys on that as well. But we hope that we'll see further clarity around the private wire or physical DPPA component for rooftop solar or other projects. And aside from that, I think, aside from traditional rooftop solar system, there's now additional consideration for different arrangement. Firstly is solar plus storage. As Anh Duc has mentioned, there's an increase in terms of the planning and also a bit more of a welcoming attitude from the central government towards storage, both on utility scale and also on CNI scale. So I hope that we'll see more implementation of solar plus storage in the upcoming year, and also further guidance on the kind of technical requirement around battery storage as well. Aside from storage, I think for rooftop solar, having an aggregated procurement approach sometimes helped. We have supported multiple factories in the past on aggregation of their rooftop solar projects, and we have seen benefits from economy of scale when going out to the market with a group of 3 to 5 factories all together in one cohort, and kind of choosing and appointing one single investor or project developer to handle all those projects. It does result in some cost saving or further cost saving compared to like a single site approach to things. So that's the second point. The third point is I think for factories that are in industrial parks, there are more advanced industrial parks here in Vietnam that can develop and operate its own renewable energy system. I think these are the guys, I think, with a bit more progress on their grid management, and also with kind of licenses that allow them to develop renewable energy project within their parks. So in these parks, you have better access to renewable energy. And also under the DPPA mechanism, there's a place for industrial park operators and owners to kind of participate on behalf of the tenants. So that's kind of plus for now. So that's it for the kind of on-site very quickly. Before moving forward, any question so far from the audience on the on-site arrangement? Yeah. Seems good. So, if you have any question, feel free to put that into the chat, or if you're shy, feel free to reach out to the CEBA team afterwards, and I'm happy to answer any question you have by email as well. So in the interest of time, I move on to the kind of off-site solution that's recently available in Vietnam. I think for this particular workshop, I will focus on the synthetic or financial component of the DPPA a bit more, since I think that is the more applicable and suitable option for most, as the physical DPPA is quite site-specific, and I think in terms of the applicability, that's a bit more limited in this scope. So for off-site solution like the DPPA, or you call it the virtual PPA arrangement in other parts like EU or US, it was recently approved, and I think we're still seeing the kind of initial early stage implementation phase ongoing or emerging. For this, I'll say that compared to the on-site solution, there's still some uncertainty with regards to the risk to both the off-takers and the project developers, and also in terms of the cost saving or premium component of the transaction itself, which I'll dive into details in a little bit. So most of the DPPA updates this year that we saw were under the Decree 57, like Anh has mentioned. I think we are seeing a more inclusive approach in terms of both the generation side. Now in addition to solar and wind, we have biomass as well. And in terms of the off-takers, I think aside from large energy manufacturing companies, we also have EV charging services being eligible for this kind of arrangement. I think more importantly, we see a lot of formula and precise methodology to calculate the different costs associated with the signing up for the DPPA in Vietnam, specifically the DPPA charge and also the cost clearing charge for Vietnam. So we are also expecting more data to come in 2025, unless I'm severely outdated on this front. We have seen data for 2024. being released towards the end of last year on these different costs. I think there was supposed to be a sharing or announcement of the past 5 years in terms of data for these different costs, but I don't think I've seen it yet, but please correct me if I'm wrong, CEBA or ACEC team. So diving into the DPPA, I think we have to start with the eligibility criteria for that. For the audience today, I think that would be on the off-taker side. You would have to be a large power consumer, purchasing at a certain voltage level from EVN, and also have a minimum requirement in terms of average monthly demand being 200,000 kilowatt hours. The calculation for this will also not just like the calculation of this average will not just focus on 1 year. It will span a few years, the year before you join the DPPA, and then also the first and the second year. If you have successfully joined the DPPA, the second year calculation will also be accounted for that. And you'll find the detailed calculation within the decree itself, so that you can have your own plan and strategy on whether you can join the DPPA or not. In terms of the generator side, I think, as I mentioned, we have wind, solar, and biomass requirement. So yeah, no, you do have more options these days. So as soon as you see yourself qualify for all of this mentioned, I think you can at least think about learning more about the DPPA and kind of signing up for it. But before then, what are the kind of pros and cons for the DPPA? I think the key advantage for this is in terms of the enabling factor for factories to meet your renewable energy target. If you have like 100% renewable use target, this is the only few option that allows you to do so. And also, I think if you look at the long term and we really look at the numbers and analyze the sites, you will understand the kind of cost saving or premiums over the long term. And we do believe that with the kind of the frequency and the rates of retail energy tariff rises in Vietnam, over the long term, we will see like a cost saving angle to that. What are the disadvantages? I think there are quite a few since it is quite early in the market. So we have not seen actual implementation yet. At least I have not seen that in the market for now. So if anyone has successfully, signed a PPAs or joined the DPPA, feel free to share. I don't think we have seen that for now. And then there are some concerns around the additional cost. Firstly, on the EVN side, the kind of cost that you have to pay in terms of the DPPA charges and the cost clearing charges, and also the kind of, let's say, the contract for difference component that you have to negotiate with the projects, like being a wind, solar, or biomass project in the market. So to really understand that, I think quite in-depth site analysis has to take place in order for a factory or a potential participant of the DPPA to know like if they are having a cost premium or cost saving for the next 5 or 10 years or so. So those are some of the risks in terms of the cost. I think other risks, I have mentioned implementation risk, as we have not seen actual implementation in the market. Pricing risk. Other than that, I think policy changes that can be a factor in place. Nothing is final here, so there can be changes, both positive or negative one to the market as it evolves and as we see actual transaction take place. Something that get overlooked quite a lot is also the performance of the projects itself. I think most factories or suppliers in Vietnam would not have the kind of technical understandings of solar farms or wind farms and its performance. And the kind of impacts it can have onto the PPAs. So that will also need like a further analysis as you go around and meet different prospective offers and, let's say, suppliers in terms of your renewable energy. And again, financing. Your project developers may have project in the pipeline, but it's not certain that they can get the kind of financing they need to really complete the project on time. That's something that you need to be mindful of as you look at their documentations to conduct the initial project due diligence. If you want to, really work with the developers in this aspect. And surely across these 5 different risks, there are mitigation strategy to be found. I think there are case studies that can be used from other markets, but to be very frank, you have to localize it to the Vietnam context as it is a new market. So I guess it will take more time. That's all I'm saying. Before you first consider joining the PPA until you actually engage into a transaction. I think heavy site-specific analysis and cost pricing analysis has to take place. Project due diligence as well for this to happen. So I think that kind of sums up the offsite or DPPA component of my presentation. I pause here if there's any question in the chat before I move on to REX and IREX in Vietnam. Kamora, any question in the chat? If not, I'll move ahead.
No, it looks like Duc is answering some of the questions. So
okay.
Yeah, we'll have to shift to the new section here pretty soon though. So if you can wrap up.
Sure. Thanks so much, Anh Duc. So yeah. So for IREX in Vietnam, I think we do not have a compliance registry here in the country, but there are, let's say, voluntary market and international REX or Tiger to be found. They're pretty cheap, ranging from, let's say, 50 cents or to $2 per REX, which is a megawatt hours in terms of your claim. I think most people say that the actual impact or the value of these REX or IREX in Vietnam are pretty low. If you want to use that to claim for your science-based target or reductions, I think it's still eligible, but you would have some problem with maybe clients or brands for the use of REX. And there's obviously a preference for actual solution like on-site renewables or off-site now that we have further policy guidance around those prospects. Yeah. This is a table to summarize everything that I've said quite succinctly, I hope. So I think I'm happy to share this slide afterwards so that you can have a summary of this in the easiest digestible form. I see some of the question in the poll saying that you still need buy-in from your, from your leaders or your management team, and think these are the kind of information that you can use to talk to them. Last but not least, I think we have a kind of procurement decision tree here. We're talking about strategizing. So these are some of the questions that you should ask. I think the factory or the brands here should ask yourself. Firstly, start with, is clean energy procurement a priority right now in this geopolitical context? And in the spirit of Earth Day today, I'll assume that everyone answer yes. So next one, we move on to the on-site one solution, which is rooftop solar, the most obvious one. Whether that is feasible and is it sufficient for you? And the answer is yes, and if it's sufficient, you go down the rabbit hole of doing on-site analysis, and then maybe proceed with kind of a procurement exercise where you go out there and request for proposal from different service providers and things like that. You can consider going into a like aggregation approach. You combine your factory with others to increase the kind of benefit from economy of scale. Now going back to the second question, if on-site solution is insufficient, then you need to consider off-site option, right? And then for that, you have either the physical DPPA or the synthetic or financial DPPA. For the physical one, I think it's quite site specific. So you mostly have to look at the project due diligences, risks and benefits, and you mostly just find out if there's a renewable project that's close enough to you that it makes sense, right? And then the due diligence flow after. But if it's for the synthetic one, I think is equally or even more challenging as you look into the different cost components, and how to negotiate the pricing, and how do you address all the financial risk or the kind of term risk that you have with the suppliers. So I think a lot of homework needs to be done for this to happen. But I hope that, and last but not least, I think I wanted to leave out IREX because I'm not a big supporter of that, but it's still an option in Vietnam. But at the end, you do have to kind of define your desired level of environmental impact claims for IREX. What is the objective for that, and why do you purchase IREX at such a price with so little to claim for? So I hope that this tree kind of helps you to really, ask yourself and, go into this different pathway, and maybe you find the right partner like CEBA or ACEC to work with you on those fronts. But yeah, I pause there in interest of time. Sorry, Kimura.
Oh, thank you, Tung. This is this great slide and a great representation of how to figure out what is the best option for your company. So I please welcome everyone to really think about that. Question is, what is that best option for you? And there are resources available. Please feel free to reach out to us. CEBA has many that are available to their members, as I'm sure as ACEC and the Fashion Charter does. So please, if there's questions you have for Tung, please put them in the chat and he can start kind of reviewing those, and we'll have a little more Q&A at the end as well. So we'll make sure to get all your questions answered. But this moment, I do want to invite Dipjay Sanchania from Adidas to the front here to provide some remarks on how Adidas is approaching these new procurement options within their value chain. Hi, Dipjay. Thank you for joining us. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. And hello, everyone. Greetings for the Earth Week. I can see a lot of sustainability champions here. So definitely it's a very important day for us to talk about something which can help us. Our factories or operations go 100% renewable energy. So it's definitely a great day. So yeah, as Cabra mentioned, I work for Adidas. I'm based in Hong Kong. My role as a director for climate and energy is to decarbonize our supply chain, because supply chain is close to 97% of Adidas global carbon emission, and that's the role my team plays here. Within that function, we are primarily focused on tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers, so supplier with whom we have a direct contractual relations, as well as their suppliers. So typically in our products, these are the supplier who provide textile, so material suppliers for them. And to decarbonize that, we have a couple of pillars that we work on, mainly focused around the key pillars that my team focus around is on energy transition side. So we are a set of energy experts within the textile industry or within the textile company or brand, right? So it's sometimes we feel a bit alienated in the way we talk about it. So one of the first for the first pillar is about renewable electricity from renewable energy. So that's where the DPPA comes and plays a very vital role, or PPA in general, I would say. Um, as of now, we have about 24% of our energy or electricity requirement coming in at supplier levels from renewable energy sources. It is not just a PPA, but includes rooftop solar, and also, as Tung mentioned, some portion of certificates. The second pillar is decarbonizing heat. So heat is, as many of you have a different kind of manufacturing process, you know that the heat is a very important component in manufacturing processes. From a textile industry perspective, we need heat to color our fabrics. We need heat to process some of the treatment we do on the fabric, as well as to produce the shoes and to like assemble the shoes as well. Heat generation traditionally was predominantly through coal, and this under this pillar we are trying to move away from coal to cleaner sources of fuel. Third is an evergreen energy efficiency. As always, it makes highest commercial sense to save a unit of energy, whether it's from electricity side or from a heat side, and then move towards decarbonization side. So these are the three pillars we work on it, and of course there are teams within Adidas who are also working on material side of it. So how do we replace let's say polyester, virgin polyester with recycled polyester, and really focus on decarbonizing our footprint directly on the embedded carbon basis. So yeah, that's a bit of a high level overview of the work that we do.
Thank you, DJ. And I welcome Tong Duk to come back because we'll open up for a little bit more Q&A discussion. But just to kick off some of the discussion, and please, participants, feel free to add any questions into the chat. But I mean, as around we're having this webinar, and we are really hearing a lot of excitement, but also concern and uncertainty on the viability of specifically, the DPPA. And curious, what advice do you have for companies who are really feeling that uncertainty?
Yeah, I think uncertainty is reasonable right now. I would say, despite I coming from an energy background, what 20 years in energy industry, and tracking Vietnam market for almost now 7 to 8 years, I can still feel anxiety. If I have to give you a number of like how many or what percentage of electricity should come from DPPA in next few years time. And this anxiety or uncertainty is coming from two reasons. One is the historically, so if you look at the DPPA discussion started almost like early to 2020 or slightly before that. In 5 years' time, we had a multiple drafts of DPPA policy. There are a couple of changes. Yes, we do see it's progressing in the right direction, but it's progressing very, very slow. A lot of companies, including us at one point of time, has banked a lot on DPPA to reach our carbon emission. And then unfortunately, those things didn't materialize because policy itself was not there. So that's the first, I would say the challenge that all of us have. Many of you as a corporate, you would see that, hey, is this really ready for me to plan in my business plan? Is this really ready for me to really push it to the suppliers? Which is not just my capex, my opex, or let's say my business plan, but also influencing the external stakeholder. And third is, even if it is like we're confident of doing it, how does the business case will look like? Because we still have those uncertainty elements, uncertainty there in terms of the details that we need to work on the business case. So a couple of things you can do if you are on the buy side of the table like me. First is of course prepare yourself instead of jumping on the the target setting, jumping on implementation plan, timeline. I would really spend good enough time to scan the market, wait, right level of clarity from the policy, and really see the system churning out at least some PPA before we scale up, or we start pushing it to the partners, the suppliers like us. Looking at existing state, I do see there could be some teething issues that might come. So I also want you to, when you take the first step, I also want you to take first step with the right level of sizing, so your risk is not too high for you to take that that first step. And that first step, getting that first steps, getting that first PPA over the line, getting that power flowing in the factory will help you scale up faster rather than taking a big step first and then getting challenged on making it right. Yeah, so these are the two recommendations that I have from my side.
Thank you. No, those are great. Tung Duke, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on your side.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Kamora. I think adding on to what DJ has said, I think for me, joining DPPA will take time. And I think, especially for suppliers, it take about a year or two before you understand the business case for that. So I think for this year, amidst all the kind of geopolitical, even in-country political situation for Vietnam, I would suppose that, in my very pessimistic view, not not a lot of actual things are going to, happen, but it is the perfect time to really educate yourself about these things and to really, if you want to do like a business case analysis for this year, that'd be great. So that next year come when everything is a bit more stable, transaction can take place. So that's my very practical recommendation.
Thanks, DJ and Tung. Basically, the discussion on DBPA has started since 2017, with a lot of discussion between USAID and MOIT and agencies at that moment. And one of my recommendations to all the partners from the corporate would be, well, when you enter a PPA, whether it is on-site PPA or off-site PPA, so you are entering a 10 or to up to 20 years engagement, so you don't have to rush. If you have any concern, you still have concern and uncertainty, and but also on the other hand, I also have another saying that don't let the perfect kill the good enough. So I cannot agree more with Tung on the government of Vietnam is restructuring. That's the reason why I put it in the very first slide of my presentations, so that will affect the project selection process. But also the government of Vietnam is speeding up on the policies issuance, like the series of degrees. They upgrade it day by day, and also one of the barriers in the past for DPPA is the previous law of electricity. So with the new electricity law that promote and set forth the foundation for the energy development as well as the renewable energy development in particular, there would be, I would assume that there will be new move to be happen in very short term. And but at this moment, what I would recommend you to do is to improve. Yes, I agree with Tung that again, that improve the capacity, the understanding of the policies, and also the second thing is to engage with a stakeholder, like the consultant, like also issuing the IFI request for information to understand about the service and also the project that the service provider can provide would be available in the market. So that would be when things come, when everything's ready, you are not left behind. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Wonderful recommendations. Oh yeah, I feel in uncertainty we can all really want to put the foot on the pedal for that to really accelerate, but it's important to ensure you be practical, have all the necessary information, and be ready for when there is the opportunity. So wonderful, thank you. So we have a question in the chat from Mia, and this is actually one I wanted to get to as well. So aside from encouraging, your suppliers to pursue DPPA, what support can companies and industry associations, so partnerships even, do to really support the implementation of the DPPA and overcome all the barriers that we have been discussing?
Yeah, maybe I can go and address this one first, and Duncan, feel free to chime in. So if I were to define like what are the key barriers, I would really put it in a three keywords. One is uncertainty. When I say uncertainty, it's not just about charge, it's also about like market's ability to deliver it, right? I think in the previous sections, we were talking about PDP 8 and how ambitious it is. And there are certain stakeholders very excited about it, but there are quite a number of stakeholders who are concerned. And I think those concerned are genuinely concerned. Like, hey, if you're talking about adding about 10 gigawatts to 15 gigawatts a year from next 5 years, what is a track record that Vietnam has to provide that level of confidence in that market will bring that capacity? Second, do we have right level of transmission infrastructure ready to build and plug in those solar? On piece of paper, it looks great, but sometimes things doesn't go all in parallel. It needs land acquisition, you need right permitting, then you need to build transmission network, and then the solar can really come up quickly in 6 months' time. But there are long gestation items. It has to be worked out. So that's where uncertainty comes. Uncertainty is not just about, okay, DPPA policy and charges. DPPA, I think uncertainty about more markets' ability to deliver that. And when I say market, I'm not just talking about private sector or market operator or EVN. I'm talking about Vietnam as a whole market. It includes government as well as an important stakeholder. And I was the most important stakeholder to ensure that this is delivered rather than just putting in a piece of paper. The second barrier that I see is ambiguity. And that's where some of those nuances that we talked about, like, hey, right now we don't know exactly DPPA charge, how that would be, how that will vary from year to year. We know the calculation method, but we don't know the exact charge and what will be the behavior of, let's say, a market operator, what will be the behavior of the regulator who will decide the charge going forward. What will be the impact of huge capex that we are talking about in PDP 8 on market prices? What will be the risk implication and hence the financing cost of such PDP 8 related implementation, whether it goes through or whether those projects become, let's say, economically unviable? Ultimately, market has to bear the burnt, and then that will reflect in the cost of financing. Cost of financing is one of the biggest costs for renewable energy, and how that will reflect in overall market pricing. I think those are the things which I put as an ambiguity, and that's where I would say consumers. So let's say any small, medium, or large size manufacturer does not have a right level of sophistication, and that's where I come to the third the barrier, which is about education. I think a lot of the participants mentioned upskilling, training is one of the requirement. So dealing with complex policy analysis that DPPA needs you first to even build your business case and pitch to your internal management, internal team, and your management. Your ability to negotiate with a very sophisticated IPP or utility on a complex PPA transaction needs a very different level of upskilling. which as of now, at least I can say, our supply base is not, except for handful, not many have that kind of depth and knowledge. So now coming to solving, or let's say overcoming this barrier, I think from an uncertainty that I talked about, I think that's where the biggest role that industry associations like CEBA or ACEC can play, really bringing this concern to government and say, yes, it's important to have an ambitious plan, but it's even more important to execute it well. We talked about DPPA policy being in limbo for a while. Like, it's like if it takes 5, 7, 10 years to just develop a policy, how are you going to execute 10 gigawatts a year? So we have a more pragmatic target, but let's execute it well. That builds confidence to industry. So how do we have that two-way dialogue to do that? I think industry associations could be are the best position to give that neutral, but sometimes even challenging message to the government. Ambiguity and upskilling, I would put it in a broadly one area where it's all about working with right stakeholders, understanding those regulations. So maybe sometime, let's say, a brand like us can do preliminary due diligence of it and then conduct upskilling session. That's what even we are planning to do. So we do work on, because we have energy experts, a team of energy experts. So we work on detailed analysis of market. We can analyze the regulatory framework. We can work on the legal side of it, and then synthesizing all those things. We are curating training programs which we can implement for our suppliers to upskill them. I think similar action can be done by any other the corporates or even industry associations like yours. So this is my approach to overcoming these barriers.
Wonderful. No, those are great tie-ins. Leaning on the associations to provide the messaging to governments and really working with them as well within your own supply chain. So we are at time here. Tung Duck, is there any last quick remarks you want to make before we close out? I do want to say thank you so much for your expertise. It has been wonderful, and I'm sure we'll have many more of this to kind of continue and keep supporting this education that is needed. But I'll allow you if you don't want to say any last words.
Well, thanks, Kamara, for the kind words, and well, I share with DJ, some of the thought, and also, have, some different ideas. But well, if we start entering that discussion, it will, take several months, and so basically, I think from my point of view, the policy is already there. Well, it's yet to be perfect, but just do some homework, have some hands-on working with the consultant and some discussion with the service provider, and then you will start to figure out what is the best fit models and best fit partners for your brands and your corporates. And also, if you still there should be some adjustment to the current landscape. You can jointly with collaborate with other brands or association to advocate for the thought that the ideas that you're thinking of. Well, that's it from my end. Over.
Thanks so much, Ingrid. I think adding 2 cents around the homework part, I think if the suppliers cannot handle the homework themselves, and I'm trying to be as nuanced as I can, the brands or MNC can engage partners like CEBA, ACEC, or consultant like Renewable, I think, for Adidas, and ourselves, Alotro, to do the homework for the suppliers. I think that'd be a good way to do it, at least for this year, before next year. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll have the webinar recording up for you shortly, and please reach out if you have any follow-up questions. Have a great day and happy Earth Day.